Mary Stuart, Queen of Scots, was held prisoner in England from the year 1578 until 1587, following her failed attempts to incite rebellion against the crown. She was imprisoned by her cousin, Queen Elizabeth I, at Loch Leven Castle, before ultimately being sentenced to death. Recently, cryptographer George Lasry and his colleagues uncovered 57 hidden letters in the digital archives of the National Library of France. These letters, written during Mary's imprisonment, had been misfiled and remained undeciphered for centuries due to their use of a complex code. Nearly 60 letters, amounting to around 150,000 words in total, reveal Mary's desperate efforts to maintain secret correspondence with Michel de Castelnau, the French ambassador to England. In these communications, she deftly maneuvered through political landscapes, sought out alliances, and even discussed potential marriages, all in a bid to regain her freedom. And yet, all her schemes were in vain. Mary was ultimately sentenced to die, leaving behind these encrypted letters as the final testimony of her years spent in despair. Ireland's war hero. Patrick Sarsfield is remembered for his role in the defense of Limerick in 1690, following the legendary Battle of the Boyne and the defeat of King James II. Though he fought valiantly, his forces were ultimately defeated by the English in 1691. Sarsfield signed the Treaty of Limerick, which allowed him and 15,000 soldiers to leave Ireland and seek refuge in France. They became known as the Wild Geese, serving in various European armies after being forced to abandon their homeland. Patrick continued to fight under King Louis XIV of France until he fell in battle on July 29, 1693. He was buried in an unknown location, believed to be near St. Martin's Church in the town of Huy, present-day Belgium. For centuries, his burial site remained a mystery. Recently, researchers uncovered 24 bodies in the church grounds, including 10 military officers. Only 2 remain unidentified, and experts believe one of them could be Sarsfield. DNA analysis is currently underway, and if confirmed, his remains will be returned to Ireland for a proper burial. In Japan, scientists have discovered 3 astonishingly rare species of worms that bear an eerie resemblance to demonic creatures from local folklore. The 3 newly identified species, Polycerus, Onii, P. pandan, and P. pucci, are bristle worms that dwell in Japan's rivers and streams. What makes them especially strange is their ability to glow in the dark, emitting an ethereal bluish-purple light like underwater fireflies. Their names are inspired by Japanese legends. Polycerus oni, for instance, is named after a mythical spirit said to lead travelers astray in deep mountain forests, causing them to fall into misfortune. These worms become even more terrifying when you consider their appearance: tentacles sprouting from their mouths and bodies laced with toxins. Some even live inside hydrothermal vents, where temperatures reach up to 140 degrees Fahrenheit. Though their bioluminescence is mesmerizing, they are capable of painful stings. According to scientists, their ancestors have existed for over 55 million years and have survived all 5 major mass extinction events, suggesting that nothing on Earth has managed to wipe out these so-called demon worms. AIM. A gift from the cosmos. Near the town of El Ali in Somalia, a massive meteorite has been discovered, carrying within it 2 minerals never before seen on Earth. The celestial rock measures over 6.5 feet in length, nearly 5 feet in height, 3 feet in width, and weighs an astonishing 16.8 tons, placing it among the 10 largest meteorites ever found. Scientists believe it must have crashed to Earth a very long time ago. Had it landed more recently, its destructive force would have certainly been recorded. The meteorite was found by accident when a mining company was excavating for precious minerals. A small sample was sent to the University of Alberta, where researchers identified 2 completely new minerals. Chris Hurd, one of the scientists on the project, said he was stunned, adding that out of the 4,000 known minerals, discovering 2 more is a significant event. It remains unclear whether these minerals can be used in future technologies. Scientists are continuing their analysis and suspect that a 3rd unknown mineral may also be present, awaiting confirmation. Deep within the forests of the Congo, locals believe a group of giant apes roams creatures that may represent a missing link between humans and chimpanzees. Known as the Bondo apes, these animals are described by eyewitnesses as walking upright like humans, standing as tall as an adult man, yet nesting on the ground like gorillas. The Bondo apes are infamous for their extreme aggression, with some rumors claiming they have even killed lions. Scientists remain uncertain whether this is a new species or a strange hybrid between gorillas and chimpanzees. Some believe they could be a transitional creature, not quite human, but not fully ape either. In 1996, conservationist Karl Amann set out to uncover the truth behind this mysterious animal. He discovered several skulls preserved at the Royal Museum for Central Africa, collected by Belgians in the Democratic Republic of the Congo. These skulls displayed the ridges typical of gorillas but were the same size as chimpanzee skulls. Carl believed these were Bondo ape skulls, and that a monumental discovery was waiting for him in the jungle. He interviewed local hunters, all of whom confirmed the existence of giant apes that hunted lions. These creatures were said to be immune to poison arrows and howled under full moons like werewolves. Carl was even shown photographs of massive ape carcasses brought down by hunters. Still, he never saw one with his own eyes. All he managed to collect were a few samples of unusually large ape feces and footprints, even bigger than those of a gorilla, strong indicators that the Bondo apes might be real. But to this day, their existence remains an unsolved mystery. On the Isle of Lewis, in the Outer Hebrides of Scotland, engineers laying a water pipeline stumbled upon a rare medieval archaeological site. Post holes, wooden pillar marks, and stone remnants suggest the area was once used for sheep management. More than 100 pottery fragments, fish bones, and other animal remains were also unearthed. According to archaeologist Alistair Ree, the site dates back to the 14th century, a time when the powerful northern Scottish lords were gradually losing power and the local population was abandoning the region. By 1493, Lord John Macdonald II lost his lands to King James IV, leading to the decline of the Outer Hebrides. Very few traces of the medieval period remain in the Western Isles, making this discovery exceptionally valuable. However, the identity of the inhabitants, their livestock practices, and the reasons behind the site's abandonment remain a mystery. The discovery of the tomb and residence of Ken Petten has reshaped scholarly understanding of ancient Egypt. It turns out that the concept of going to work existed more than 33 centuries ago. En Petten served as a vizier under Pharaoh Akhenaten, living around 1353 to 1336 BCE. Despite being one of the most powerful men of his time, he was still required to walk daily from his lavish residence to his workplace. His home was extravagant, with whitewashed walls, a columned main hall, and a spacious reception area. In 1922, Leonard Woolley published detailed findings about En Petten's life after extensively studying the ancient estate. This discovery shows that even high-ranking elites in ancient Egyptian society were expected to carry out daily routines just like everyone else. In May of 1951, just 1 year after the Korean War erupted, a strange incident occurred north of the capital city of Seoul. Private Francis P. Wall and his unit were stationed near the Chwon area when they witnessed what may be one of the most clearly documented encounters with an unidentified flying object in recorded history. As the group prepared to shell a village, a glowing sphere suddenly appeared over the mountains and began to drift silently toward them. It was a continuously flashing orb, pulsating with strange light, resembling a floating lantern suspended in midair. The object continued its approach, just as the first shells exploded over the village. In a 1987 interview with the Center for UFO Studies, Francis described how the orb maneuvered effortlessly among the artillery blasts, seemingly unharmed. Its light shifted from bright orange to flickering green and blue. What made it even more bizarre was its solidity. Francis fired his rifle at the object and clearly heard the bullets ricochet off it as though they had struck solid metal, but the orb showed no damage. Then, without warning, it retaliated. It emitted a pulse of strobe-like light that swept across the entire unit before vanishing. The aftermath was devastating. The soldiers exposed to the beam began showing severe signs of radiation sickness. Within 3 days, the entire unit had to be hospitalized with classic symptoms: diarrhea and elevated white blood cell counts, clear indicators of radiation exposure. To this day, no one knows for certain what appeared in the skies over Korea that year. But according to many, it may well have been a visitor from beyond the stars, or perhaps a top-secret experimental weapon never revealed to the public. The city beneath the sand. In the tiny village of Shisar in Oman, hidden deep within the barren desert, archaeologists uncovered the ruins of an ancient city known as Ubar. Excavations revealed that it had once been a magnificent outpost, possibly a vital stop along the Silk Road. Ubar was once surrounded by 8 massive towers and towering defensive walls, built to withstand invading forces. Evidence suggests the site was inhabited as far back as 2800 BCE, though the towers themselves may have been constructed much later. According to local legend, Ubar brought about its own destruction by turning away from God and succumbing to earthly pleasures. The people grew wealthy, lived in decadence, and eventually faced divine punishment for abandoning their faith. It is said that God opened a sinkhole directly beneath the city's central fortress, swallowing Ubar whole and burying it beneath the desert sands. Strangely enough, archaeological evidence supports this myth. The center of Ubar was indeed a large administrative fortress that guarded the only water source for miles around. Around the year 100 CE, a sinkhole formed directly beneath the structure, likely due to the collapse of the underlying aquifer. The fortress fell, the city lost its lifeblood, and Ubar was abandoned for centuries. It wasn't until 1500 years later that humans returned to the site and constructed a new tower atop the ruins. Aniak Chak is not a lost city in the conventional sense, but rather the remnants of a prehistoric settlement wiped out by one of the most violent volcanic eruptions in North American history. Located in the Aleutian Mountains of Alaska, Aniak Chak is a massive volcanic caldera, the sunken hollow of a once active volcano spanning more than 6 miles across. Thousands of years ago, humans lived around this area, drawn by the rich resources of rivers, fish, and wildlife. Then, around 3,500 years ago, the volcano erupted with terrifying force, obliterating the surrounding land and scattering ash as far as the Arctic Circle. The blast carved out the caldera that exists today and erased nearly all evidence of the community that once lived there. But archaeologists have since discovered traces of human life, both before and after the eruption, including stone tools and shelter remains. These findings prove that despite facing one of nature's most catastrophic events, people returned to reclaim the land, demonstrating the resilience and tenacity of ancient communities. Today, Aniak Chak is one of the most remote and rarely visited national preserves in the United States. It is both a geological wonder and a solemn reminder of how swiftly an entire culture can be erased by the power of nature. A secret underground room was recently discovered beneath the ancient palace of one of Rome's most infamous emperors. The find occurred during restoration work on the Domus Aurea, the opulent estate of Emperor Nero. Though buried under centuries of rubble, the room remained astonishingly intact. Its walls were adorned with vivid murals depicting legendary creatures, sphinxes, forest spirits, and centaurs. Archaeologists have dubbed it the Sphinx Room. It's believed the chamber was built after the Great Fire of Rome in 64 CE, when Nero moved into the Domus Aurea after much of the city had burned, leaving thousands homeless. The palace once boasted over 300 rooms and spanned more than 300 acres, epitomizing imperial excess. Images of warriors, divine birds, and sea beasts decorate the chamber, echoing the grandeur Nero pursued until his final days. And yet, the room's exact purpose remains a mystery. After Nero's death, the Roman people, still furious about the fire, destroyed the estate, viewing it as a symbol of disgrace. The mythical land. Arcadia is both a real place in modern Greece and a legendary realm from ancient Greek mythology. According to tradition, Arcadia lies in the southern Peloponnese and was home to fantastical beings, forest nymphs, centaurs, talking trees, and gods. Pan, the god of the wild, is said to have lived there, as did Hermes, the god of thieves. To the ancient Greeks, Arcadia represented a pristine paradise untouched by human corruption, overflowing with lush forests, cool springs, fragrant flowers, and sweet fruits. But it was also a land of danger. Those who wandered too deep into the woods risked being trapped in swamps or encountering monstrous creatures, like giant birds with bronze beaks and iron feathers sharp as blades. Strangely, Arcadia still retains its wilderness. It is a rugged, mountainous region with sparse population rarely conquered by any empire throughout history. Tanis, an ancient Egyptian city, may not be as famous as Luxor or Thebes, but it was once one of the most powerful centers along the Nile, particularly during Egypt's Third Intermediate Period around 1000 BCE. Located in the Nile Delta, Tanis served as both a royal capital and a religious hub for centuries. It was also the final resting place of several great pharaohs, along with priceless treasures hidden for millennia. In the 1930s, French archaeologist Pierre Montet unearthed a royal necropolis at Tanis, filled with artifacts rivaling those of Tutankhamun's tomb, including solid silver coffins, pure gold masks, and a wealth of precious jewels, all remarkably well preserved. Yet due to political instability at the time, the discovery never gained the international recognition it deserved. Even today, many people remain unaware that one of Egyptology's richest finds didn't come from the Valley of the Kings, but from the buried ruins of Tanis. Though somewhat forgotten, Tanis was once a thriving metropolis of temples, markets, and grand architecture, much of which still lies buried, waiting to be uncovered. In an ancient Visigothic city in Spain, archaeologists have discovered the buried remains of a mysterious structure that could be one of the oldest mosques in Europe. The site, known as Rhocopolis, lies in the countryside near Madrid. The city was founded 14 centuries ago by the Visigoths warriors who helped bring down the Roman Empire. Historian Michael McCormack explained that his team uncovered numerous buried buildings, roads, and hidden passages. However, excavation has been limited due to modern roads running directly over the ruins. Rhocopolis thrived until the Islamic conquest in 711, when it was destroyed and abandoned around the year 800. Because it was among the first locations in Europe to fall under Islamic rule, researchers believe it could also be home to one of the continent's first mosques. The building in question features an entrance facing Mecca and a floor plan resembling early mosques from the Middle East. If confirmed, it would be the oldest known mosque in Europe. Thinis, also known as, this was the first capital of ancient Egypt, a city so old that by the time of the New Kingdom, it had already become the stuff of legend. According to ancient records, Thinis was the political center of Upper Egypt during the First Dynasty, around 3100 BCE. It may have been the home of Narmer, the legendary pharaoh who unified Upper and Lower Egypt, becoming the nation's first true king. Despite its significance, the precise location of Thinis remains unknown. Most scholars believe it was situated near modern-day Girga, or El Birba, not far from Abydos. Abydos would later become a major religious center, possibly absorbing or replacing Thinis's role. Because Thinis existed before the widespread use of writing in Egypt, very little concrete evidence has survived. Most information comes from later sources, such as the historian Manetho and inscriptions found in Old Kingdom tombs. These writings portray Thinis as the birthplace of kingship, a place where divine power was first granted to humanity. To this day, Thinis remains a forgotten capital, a city that once gave rise to one of history's greatest civilizations, yet left behind almost no visible trace. Shambhala, in ancient Sanskrit, means the land of peace. It is a legendary paradise that appears in many ancient texts. Shambhala is mentioned in Tibetan Buddhism as well as in the esoteric scriptures of the Zhangzhung culture, which predates Buddhism itself. According to these traditions, Shambhala is a place that only those with a pure heart can find. In later Buddhist legends, Shambhala is described as a mystical kingdom where people live in wisdom and love, free of suffering, disease, and aging. The name of Shambhala varies across cultures: the Forbidden Land, the Realm of Light, the Abode of Living Gods. In Hinduism, it is known as Arara, the Land of the Worthy. The Chinese called it Sen, the Russians knew it as Belo. For thousands of years, stories of Shambhala have echoed throughout Asia. But is it real? The answer is likely no. Many explorers, even the Nazis, organized expeditions in search of Shambhala in Tibet, but no one has ever found it. On the island of Malta, two massive temples known as Gigantija still stand, ancient megalithic structures that predate Stonehenge. They were built over a period of 1100 years, from 3600 BCE to 2500 BCE. Some believe they may be even older. What makes Gigantija so mysterious is how such enormous stone blocks were erected on a tiny island in the middle of the Mediterranean, where no advanced tools or techniques were known to exist. Today, Gigantija is considered the second oldest religious site in the world, surpassed only by Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. But who built these temples? Archaeologists, studying the statues and artifacts, believe they were constructed by a culture deeply devoted to temple building. Local legend, however, tells a different story. Islanders believe a female giant once lived on Malta. She bore a child with a mortal man and built the temples so her half-human child would have a place to worship her after she died. In other words, according to folklore, Gigantija was the work of a giant. The ancient Maya were obsessed with sea monsters. Across the ruins of cities from Mexico to Guatemala, archaeologists have found countless depictions of terrifying marine creatures. Some scholars believe the Maya may have recorded actual encounters with dangerous oceanic beasts. It is known that the Maya used shark teeth for a variety of purposes. Most Maya sites contain shark teeth that are at least 2,000 years old. They were used as jewelry, affixed to clubs as weapons, and played a role in painful bloodletting rituals meant to offer life to the gods. Images of sea monsters were carved into temple walls and painted on ceramics. Did the Maya truly see real sea monsters, or were they simply enchanted by ordinary sharks? Researcher Sarah Newman from James Madison University believes the Maya hunted sharks, and tales of these hunts spread from coastal cities to inland settlements, growing in exaggeration over time. For those who had never seen the sea, believing in shark-like leviathans was perfectly reasonable. In Maya art, these creatures often resemble the prehistoric megalodon more than modern great whites. Some scholars speculate the Maya may have encountered true sea monsters, but Sarah believes these were fishermen's tales, gradually woven into legend. In Mardin Province, Turkey, archaeologists have uncovered a vast cave network, revealing what may be the largest underground city in the world. Within the cave, they discovered passages descending deep into the earth, opening into a hidden labyrinth with water wells, food storage rooms, mysterious altars, and residential quarters dating back to the 2nd century CE. Gani Taran, the lead archaeologist from the Mardin Museum, stated that the area had been inhabited in isolation for nearly 1900 years. He believes the city was originally built as a refuge for early Christians fleeing persecution. As more families converted, the underground population grew, and the city flourished. Even after Christianity became mainstream, the underground city continued to be used, likely due to its sheer size. What remains a mystery is why it was ultimately abandoned, and why all memory of it vanished. Evidence shows that some tunnels were still in use only a few decades ago, yet today they are entirely forgotten. This is just one of over 200 underground settlements in Turkey, but it dwarfs the others in scale. At its peak, it may have housed up to 70,000 people more than most modern North American cities, and all hidden deep beneath the earth, far from sunlight. The giant fish of the ancient ocean. Titanichthys was a massive armored fish that lived during the Devonian period, around 380 million years ago. It once roamed the ancient seas that covered what is now Morocco, North America, and parts of Europe. This giant fish stretched more than 13 feet long, with lower jaws measuring over 3 feet. Titanichthys resembled another armored predator, Dunkleosteus, but had a very different diet. According to paleontologist Samuel Crutum, the jawbones of Titanichthys were less robust than those of its relatives, suggesting it didn't hunt hard-shelled prey or large animals. Instead, it may have been a filter feeder, like today's basking sharks gorging on tiny marine organisms. Though enormous, Titanichthys posed no threat to large animals. But for the unfortunate small fish of its time, it was a nightmare come to life. While building a highway in Romania, construction workers stumbled upon a treasure-filled tomb. It dates back to the 5th century, an era when the Huns terrorized Europe. The discovery was stunning, as no one expected the resting place of an ancient warrior to lie in plain sight. 3 other archaeological sites were found nearby, but this warrior's tomb stood out. Inside the 1,500-year-old grave, archaeologists uncovered over 100 artifacts, gilded weapons, ornate objects, and gemstone-encrusted jewelry, alongside the remains of a wealthy warrior and his horse. Researchers described it as a royal tomb, suggesting the warrior belonged to the ruling class, yet his identity remains unknown. Was he a Hun from Central Asia who settled in Romania, or a local noble who survived the invasions? The Huns arrived in Eastern Europe during the 4th century, triggering mass migrations of the Vandals and Goths toward Rome, altering the course of history. Their dominance ended in 454 CE after defeat by Germanic tribes in what is now Croatia. In Bolivia, an archaeological team has uncovered a hidden underground city directly beneath the ancient site of Tiwanaku. The discovery was first announced by the Bolivian Ministry of Culture and Tourism. Using cutting-edge technology, researchers identified a pre-Hispanic fortress beyond the known excavation zones. Through infrared scanning and specialized cameras, they revealed an underground plaza and buried foundations, possibly the remains of a lost pyramid. The structures are so vast that complete excavation could take half a century. Tiwanaku has long been one of Bolivia's most significant megalithic sites. Some even believe it was once a stargate, a cosmic portal used by mysterious beings to enter Earth. The region is home to many strange relics: Pumapunku, the Akapana Pyramid, and the Gate of the Sunday. The Tiwanaku culture flourished around 1580 BCE before vanishing 8 centuries ago. This latest discovery is reshaping our understanding of Tiwanaku. It wasn't just a majestic surface. City beneath the ground lies an entire forgotten world. 7,000 years ago, in Eastern Europe, the Cucuteni Tripilia civilization built what were arguably the most advanced Neolithic cities in the world. These settlements were large, orderly, and densely populated, possibly the first urban centers in Europe. But what baffles archaeologists is that the Cucuteni people deliberately destroyed their own cities. Every 60 to 80 years, they would burn their settlements to the ground and move on only to build new ones, and then burn them again. No one knows why they did this. Their population may have reached 1 million. They had advanced agriculture, harvesting crops from wheat to peas. They made pottery, crafted unique art, and even forged tools from copper. If they had wanted to, they could have built cities that stood for millennia, but instead, they built and burned in an endless cycle. To this day, the reason remains one of archaeology's deepest mysteries: a civilization undone by pride. A recent international study has shed light on the collapse of the ancient Maya, specifically the fall of Mayapan. According to researchers, Mayapan was the final stronghold of the Maya before it was abandoned in the mid-15th century. Ironically, it was destroyed not by outsiders, but by the Maya themselves. For 3,000 years, the Maya ruled the Yucatan Peninsula and surrounding regions, but by the 9th century, their civilization began spiraling into chaos. Within a century, most of their cities fell into ruin, except Mayapan. Thanks to its resilience, Mayapan rose to become the empire's new capital in the 12th century and thrived for another 300 years. With a population of 15 to 17,000, it was a flourishing city, even as drought devastated the rest of the region. Mayapan endured until the Isu family arrived. This noble lineage once held great power but lost influence during the droughts. In 1441, driven by rage and desperation, they led a rebellion against Mayapan itself. The city was torn apart from within and burned to the ground. In a single night, the last beacon of Maya brilliance was extinguished not by foreign invaders, but by its own people. Deep within the Brazilian rainforest, scientists have discovered a network of massive tunnels that defy any known natural explanation. They are too large, too intricate, and unlike anything formed by geological processes. In 2010, Brazil's Geological Survey began a serious investigation, focusing on a cave system in the west. They found claw marks etched along the walls, traces of some prehistoric beast now extinct. The leading theory is that these tunnels were dug by giant ground sloths as big as cars. Some scientists also suggest giant armadillos, whose shells were once large enough to shelter humans. These tunnels are wide enough for a car to drive through and are believed to be at least 10,000 years old, possibly much older. Archaeologists believe they may have found the actual house where Jesus grew up. If true, this is not just a relic, it could be the very place where the Savior spent his early years. Researcher Ken Dark from the University of Reading is the man behind the discovery. After more than a century of excavation at the Nazareth convent site in Israel, he concluded that all signs point in one direction. The convent was built atop the ruins of Jesus' childhood home. With over 30 years of experience, Ken Dark began investigating Nazareth in 2004. He and his team uncovered a structure dating back to the time Jesus is believed to have lived 2,000 years ago. Modern Nazareth has a large Muslim population, but around the year 30 CE, it was part of the Galilee region, where Jesus began preaching, performing miracles, and gathering his apostles. In 1881, a group of French nuns came to Israel and built the Nazareth convent directly over a site that had been venerated since the 7th century. For over a millennium, locals believed this to be the home of Joseph and Mary, the place where Jesus grew up. The site was once restored by the Crusaders, then destroyed again in the 13th century. Ken Dark's excavation uncovered a courtyard, doorways, windows from the original house, an ancient stone tomb, and a forgotten Byzantine church. There may never be a sign etched with the words, "The Lord lived here," but these remains raise a compelling question. Is this enough to confirm it as the childhood home of Jesus? Hidden among the farmlands of rural India lies one of the most important ancient cities. Almost no one has heard of Rakhigarhi. This settlement was once part of the Indus Valley Civilization, a powerful Bronze Age culture that flourished more than 4,000 years ago across what is now Pakistan and northwestern India. Rakhigarhi may have been the largest settlement of the entire civilization, even larger than the famed city of Mohenjo-Daro. Yet for centuries, it was forgotten, buried beneath villages and rice fields. Serious excavation didn't begin until the early 21st century. What archaeologists uncovered shocked the world: broad avenues, advanced drainage systems, multi-room houses, and ancient tombs, all dating to around 2600 BCE. The sheer scale and sophistication suggest this was once a major urban center. Even more remarkable, DNA analysis from skeletal remains found here is beginning to reveal the genetic origins of ancient South Asian populations. Rakhigarhi is not just a lost city, it is a vital piece of the puzzle in understanding the birth of human civilization. A World War II aircraft that went missing 77 years ago has been discovered in the icy Himalayas of India. The C-46 transport plane was carrying 13 people from southern China during the final days of the war when it vanished without a trace. No one survived, and the story faded into obscurity. The wreckage lay hidden on a remote, frozen mountain peak where no one thought to search for decades. That changed when American explorer Clayton Kuhls was approached by the son of one of the victims. In the year 2018, the first expedition ended in disaster. 3 team members died of hypothermia, and 2 others nearly perished. But in the year 2022, Clayton and his team stumbled upon the aircraft. The tail number confirmed its identity. No human remains were found, but the victims are believed to still rest somewhere on the cold mountain. Scientists have proposed a shocking new theory about dark energy, the invisible force driving the universe's endless expansion. It is not to be confused with dark matter, as the two are entirely separate phenomena. Since the late 1990s, dark energy has remained purely theoretical, never observed or measured directly. But recent research suggests it may originate from black holes. An international team published 2 studies proposing that dark energy could accumulate inside black holes and gradually leak outward, expanding the universe like an inflating balloon. Still, the mechanism behind dark energy remains a mystery. Some believe it's tied to the energy released when stars collapse and die, but for now, it remains just that, a theory. Rasas is an ancient ruin in central Jordan, even older than the famous city of Petra located nearby. Though the 2 sites are close in distance, they appear to be entirely unrelated. Some scholars believe Rasas could be the biblical town of Mephat mentioned in the book of Jeremiah, though this is still debated. The city may have been established in the 5th century CE and was accessible via a branch of the legendary King's Highway. This settlement lies deep in the Jordanian desert, a harsh and inhospitable place. The King's Highway was once a medieval trade route connecting Africa to Mesopotamia, branching into Egypt and Damascus, and bringing caravans through this region. By the final years of the Roman Empire, the site was used as a military outpost. Later, it came under both Christian and Islamic rule. Most remaining structures date to the Byzantine period and the early Islamic era of the 7th century. Although excavated since the 1980s, the site has largely been neglected. Many ruins remain buried, and much of the ancient city still lies hidden beneath desert sands. The tragedy of a Native American capital. Around 1,000 years ago, along the banks of the Mississippi River near what is now St. Louis, a powerful city named Cahokia rose to prominence. It spanned dozens of miles, built from earthen mounds and platforms, with public plazas, rich farmland, and a population of at least 20,000 people. By the 11th century, Cahokia was flourishing larger and more impressive than Paris at the time. It was the religious and economic heart of native North America, attracting tens of thousands from across the continent. But by the year 1350, within just 2.5 centuries, Cahokia was completely abandoned. For decades, researchers have searched for the cause. Now, the mystery may finally be solved. According to the University of Illinois, Cahokia may have committed ecocide, destroying its environment at an unsustainable pace. The population cut down too many surrounding trees, leading to deforestation, erosion, and uncontrollable flooding. Without forest cover, rains washed away soil, destroyed homes, and ruined crops. In the end, the people of Cahokia drowned in the very waters they unleashed. The mighty kingdom of Makuria, Old Dongola, located on the east bank of the Nile in Sudan, was once the seat of power for the kingdom of Makuria. This kingdom rose in the 5th century CE after the fall of the Kushite Empire. The Kushites were the builders of the Grand Pyramids of Nubia, many of which still stand at Meroe. Old Dongola reached its height in the 10th and 11th centuries, about 500 years after its founding. It began as a small town built on a former fortress and grew into a bustling city with palaces, grand churches, and desert communities clustered nearby. It also supported a service industry catering to merchant caravans. By the 14th century, the city fell into decline following Arab invasions and the spread of disease. Today, only ruins remain of a kingdom that lasted longer than the Roman Empire. Fusang is a legendary land recorded in ancient Chinese texts. The tale dates back more than 15 centuries, when a Buddhist monk named Huishen described a vast land far to the east so distant that it may have been the Americas. According to records, Huishen returned to China in the year 499 after traveling east by sea. His report to the emperor was meticulously documented. Whether Fusang was the Americas, an unnamed island, or the Kamchatka Peninsula remains unknown, but his voyage planted the seed of a legend never fully verified. In the 15th century, cartographer Zwane Pizzigano created a mysterious map depicting a group of islands never seen before. The largest of these was called Antillia, also known as the Island of Seven Cities, and the Cairns of Other. The map depicted Europe, Africa, and a wide swath of the Atlantic Ocean, including the Madeira and Azores Islands, even though the Azores wouldn't be officially discovered until the year 1431. The problem? No one has ever actually seen Antillia. Yet its name appears in legends dating back to the 8th century. According to Spanish folklore, after Muslims conquered the Iberian Peninsula in the year 714, 7 Visigoth bishops fled to a distant island and founded 7 cities there. What happened next is unknown. No trace has ever been found. Only the name remains on a map drawn 6 centuries ago. Even in the age of dinosaurs, cockroaches were crawling across the earth. 97 million years ago, a night-hunting predator roach stalked other insects under the cover of darkness. This particular cockroach was no larger than a pinky fingernail, but it was terrifying, armed with delicate wings, front limbs adapted for grasping prey, and a ruthless hunting instinct. The only known fossil was preserved in amber from a mine in northern Myanmar. Thanks to the resin, every detail from its narrow neck to its bulging eyes remains intact. The Cretaceous period saw an explosion in insect diversity. Among them were predatory cockroaches, tiny T-Rexes of the insect world. Over tens of millions of years, only one lineage survived to become the cockroaches we know today. In the year 2021, during a routine training exercise on the slopes of Mount Carmel, an Israeli soldier named Ido Gardi noticed something strange beneath his feet. He bent down and picked up what appeared to be an unusually old coin. What surprised everyone was that the coin bore the face of a Roman emperor. It was soon handed over to the Israel Antiquities Authority, where experts confirmed it dated back nearly 2,000 years. The emperor etched on the coin was Antoninus Pius, who ruled between the years 138 and 161 AD. According to researchers, the coin was likely minted around the years 158 to 159. It is one of only 11 such coins ever discovered in Israel. One side features the emperor's profile, the other side bears the image of the Syrian moon god, Men. The coin is believed to have originated from the city of Geva Philippi, also known as the City of the Knights. This was once a stronghold of King Herod mentioned in biblical accounts, and later became a Roman military outpost during the Great Jewish Revolt between the years 66 and 70 AD. Not far from the ancient Maya city of Chichen Itza lies a sacred cave known as Balancanche. For centuries, this mysterious cavern was the site of ritual ceremonies and served a vital role in the Maya spiritual world until the fall of their civilization. To understand the true importance of Balancanche, one must look into the Maya belief system. They saw the universe as divided into three realms: the sky, the earth, and the underworld. Caves, to them, were not just natural features, but sacred portals, gateways into Xibalba, the shadowy domain ruled by gods of death and their minions. Balancanche stretches more than 1 mile beneath solid limestone. 1,000 years ago, groundwater levels were nearly 18 feet lower than they are today, allowing the Maya to travel deeper into the cavern system than modern explorers can reach now. So sacred was this site that ancient Maya builders erected structures around the cave's entrance. Sadly, those constructions were demolished in the 1950s to make way for road building material. In ancient times, the cave was once connected directly to Chichen Itza by a paved causeway, a stone road known as a sakbe, evidence of the cave's spiritual and political significance. A team of archaeologists from Tel Aviv University carried out a special excavation beneath the ancient fortress of Masada. This imposing stronghold, built by King Herod the Great, is most famous for the tragic mass suicide of 960 Jewish rebels in the year 74 AD, when Roman forces advanced to massacre the last holdouts of the Jewish revolt. The rebels fled to the heights of Masada, hoping to survive. But as enemy troops approached, they chose death over capture, throwing themselves and their families from the cliffs in a final act of defiance. In the year 2017, researchers began digging into a mysterious underground structure beneath the site. This structure had first been identified in aerial surveys as early as 1924, but had never been explored. No one knows what it was used for. It may have served as a hidden refuge during the siege. Even more mysterious is the silence that followed. Since the announcement of the excavation, more than 5 years have passed, and no official findings have been released. Whatever they discovered remains unknown. The underground Masada continues to keep its secrets buried in the stone. In the early years of the 2010s, during an undisclosed mission in Afghanistan, 8 American soldiers were said to have made a startling discovery inside a remote cave. What they found was not a modern aircraft but an ancient flying machine surrounded by a mysterious energy field. According to whispered reports, the object was more than 5,000 years old. It appeared to be an ancient piece of technology beyond anything imaginable for its time. When the soldiers attempted to interact with it, all 8 reportedly vanished without a trace. No one knows what became of them, and the fate of the object remains a mystery. The story sounds like something straight out of science fiction. As expected, the military never confirmed it, but some historians believe the object may have been a Vimana, a legendary flying craft mentioned in ancient Hindu scriptures. Vimanas were said to be divine chariots, capable of flying through both the sky and the cosmos. In some texts, they are described as floating temples, 7-tiered palaces that hovered above the earth. Most mainstream archaeologists dismiss these tales as mythology. Yet a few believe Vimanas may be remnants of ancient technology, possibly even anti-gravity machines powered by the Earth's own pull. Whether or not such a device truly exists, and whether the United States military discovered it in an Afghan cave, remains a question still lost in the shadows. The city of Valletta is a dazzling relic of old European grandeur. Its golden towers, time-worn stone roads, sunlit courtyards, and ornate palaces forming a living canvas of architectural wonder. But beneath this beauty lies another world, one shrouded in darkness and secrecy, hidden for decades from human eyes. Throughout history, Malta has been occupied by great empires. It served as a key bastion for the Crusaders, fell under Ottoman siege, and was later ruled by the British Empire. Perched in the heart of the Mediterranean, it was a fortress. Every power desired Napoleon himself once set foot on its soil. In the year 1530, the Hospitaller Knights arrived after being expelled from Jerusalem and Rhodes. To defend Malta at all costs, they began digging tunnels beneath their new stronghold, beneath what is now modern-day Valletta. The Ottomans responded by digging tunnels of their own. Occasionally, rival soldiers would meet in the darkness, leading to brutal hand-to-hand combat deep underground. This eerie conflict lasted for nearly 4 months, resembling trench warfare from World War I, but fought in utter blackness. In the end, the Knights held their ground. By 1566, 12 enormous reservoirs had been carved beneath the city to secure fresh water in case of siege. Alongside them, a vast underground defense system emerged, ready to repel any invasion. When the British took control of Malta in the mid-19th century, one of the world's largest tunnel networks already lay beneath Valletta. But by then, its military value had faded. Slowly, the tunnels slipped from memory until only legends remained. In the ancient city of Utrera, archaeologists uncovered a long-lost Jewish synagogue over 600 years old. This 14th-century structure survived the dark period that followed the expulsion of Jews from Spain in the year 1492. After the decree, most Jewish landmarks were demolished or repurposed. Only 4 medieval synagogues are known to remain standing in all of Spain. This one, however, had vanished, buried beneath the floor of a modern bar after centuries of changing ownership. Over the years, the building had served as a church, a hospital, a private residence, an orphanage, and finally a restaurant, before being hidden beneath the dance floor of a nightclub. Excavations revealed a prayer hall, benches, and a chamber used for storing sacred texts. This forgotten synagogue stands today as a rare witness to the enduring legacy of Jewish culture amid centuries of upheaval. Its rediscovery is a powerful reminder of resilience, memory, and history long concealed beneath the surface. High in the remote mountains of Luzon, in the Philippines, the Banaue rice terraces rise like ancient stairways carved into the earth, living proof of engineering skill that has endured for more than 2,000 years. At first glance, they may resemble other Southeast Asian terraces. But Banaue is unique. It was built by the Ifugao people using nothing more than primitive stone tools. Lacking any modern technology, they constructed a vast network of fields and an intricate irrigation system that still functions to this day. The terraces span across multiple villages, like colossal steps climbing the mountainsides. They cover a total area of over 4,000 square miles, and the full length of the system reaches nearly 13,000 miles, almost half the circumference of the planet. In the year 1995, UNESCO recognized the Banaue Terraces as a World Heritage Site. More than just a feat of ancient engineering, it is a living monument. Farmers still till these fields just as their ancestors did 2 millennia ago. While excavating a field in England, construction workers unexpectedly uncovered an ancient Roman stone road, remarkably intact and lying only a few inches beneath the surface. Experts believe the road dates back to the Roman occupation of Britain. It was found near the village of Warrington and is considered a rare archaeological treasure, one of a kind in the region. Though the road appears to lead to nowhere, researchers noticed deep grooves carved into the stones, evidence that Roman carts once traveled this path for many years, transporting goods between distant settlements. Nearby, the remains of a Roman villa had previously been found, suggesting the two sites may have been connected. Together, they offer a glimpse into the vast infrastructure the Romans left behind, roads that stretched across an empire and endured for centuries. According to researchers from the University of Cambridge, it was Leonardo da Vinci, not Guillaume Amontons, who first discovered the fundamental laws of friction. Though Amontons is officially credited with publishing these ideas in the year 1699, Leonardo had explored them more than 200 years earlier. Back in the 1920s, the director of the Victoria and Albert Museum briefly reviewed one of Leonardo's notebooks. He dismissed the red chalk sketches inside as meaningless scribbles. The notes were shelved and forgotten for decades. Only recently did scientists re-examine the drawings and realize what they truly were: experimental observations of friction. They proved Leonardo had grasped the principles as early as the year 1493, making him the original pioneer of one of science's most essential laws: history's greatest mapping error. The island of California ranks among the strangest cartographic mistakes in human history. It all began in the 16th century, when explorers were unsure whether Baja California was an island, a peninsula, or a landmass connected to the Americas. Throughout the 16th century, many maps depicted Baja California as a massive island, separated from the mainland by a mythical strait. The error persisted well into the 17th and 18th centuries, even after explorers had confirmed it was part of the continent. Over time, fantasy blended with legend. Some Europeans believed this island was the Lost Eden or Atlantis, a magical paradise hidden off the western shores of North America. It would take centuries for modern cartography to erase this myth. Even so, the Glenn McLaughlin collection at Stanford University still holds more than 1,000 antique maps depicting California as a floating landmass. One of the earliest and most fantastical descriptions appeared in the year 1510, when writer Garcia Rodriguez de Montalvo portrayed it as a utopia ruled by warrior women, an Amazon-like society in a land of dreams. In ancient Iceland, sorcerers were captivated by black magic texts, and they possessed more than just one. Among them, the most infamous was Graskina, also known as the Grayskin. This book consisted of 2 volumes. The first was written in the standard Latin alphabet and contained fragments of magical knowledge gathered from all over the world. The second volume, however, was far more enigmatic. It was encoded in runic symbols, unreadable unless one knew how to decipher the secret script. It was believed that the second part had to be carefully guarded, for it contained genuine black magic spells, incantations capable of unleashing terrifying consequences if they ever fell into the wrong hands. Unfortunately, no copies of this sinister book have survived to the present day. Historians are not even certain whether it ever truly existed or if it was simply a creation of old Icelandic folklore. Did Iceland once produce dark sorcerers who studied forbidden arts from a cursed volume? In the year 1948, during the construction of a dam in Bulgaria, a stunning discovery was made: ruins of the ancient city of Sopsis, once part of the Thracian civilization, lying buried beneath the forming reservoir. Archaeologists were given only 6 years to conduct research before the rising waters swallowed the entire site. They did what they could, and then Sopsis was forgotten. It wasn't until the year 2005 that Bulgarian architect Zio Tilv proposed an ambitious plan to resurrect the city. Sopsis is believed to be the best preserved Thracian city in the country. Tilv's vision was to build a transparent underwater enclosure and ferry visitors across the lake by boat to view the reconstructed ruins behind a glass barrier. However, the project would require more than $50 million, and to this day, it remains unrealized. Historically, Sopsis was devastated by the Celts in the year 281 BC. The fatal mistake of its people was building much of the settlement outside the city's defensive walls. When the Celtic invaders came, it was a massacre. In the summer of 1944, during the darkest days of World War II, a haunting discovery was made inside a cave on the island of Saipan. In one rare historic photograph, a U.S. Marine is seen carrying a nearly lifeless infant from the shadows of the cave. The Marines had stumbled upon the hidden grotto while sweeping the island in pursuit of Japanese soldiers and civilians who were hiding after the swift American victory on July 9th. The Battle of Saipan left deep scars. Roughly 30,000 Japanese soldiers perished, along with 12,000 civilians and native islanders. So great was the terror that many civilians leapt from cliffs to avoid capture. When Marines entered the caves where survivors had hidden, they found piles of skeletal remains. It was one of the most horrifying scenes ever witnessed. But from within the horror, there was a single survivor, a baby no more than a few months old, crawling alone in the darkness until arms reached in and lifted it to safety. While surveying the dry moat that surrounds the ancient walls of Jerusalem, Israeli archaeologists discovered a curious impression, a human handprint embedded into the rock face. The moat had once served as a vital part of the city's defenses, an obstacle enemies had to cross before reaching the fortified walls. No one knows who left the handprint or why. Some theories suggest it was a builder's secret mark, left during construction. Others believe it may have been a prank carved centuries ago. There are even whispers that it belonged to a crusader who was trapped while laying siege to the city. Zubar Adawi, of the Israel Antiquities Authority, believes the handprint might hold important clues about the Crusader period in Jerusalem. For now, however, it remains an unsolved mystery etched in stone. Sanchi is no ordinary city. It is a sacred center of Buddhism, home to the Great Stupa, one of the oldest stone structures on the Indian subcontinent. It rests atop a peaceful hill in the state of Madhya Pradesh. The Great Stupa was built in the 3rd century BC by the legendary Emperor Ashoka as a holy monument. Originally, it was a modest brick structure meant to safeguard the relics of the Buddha. Over generations, later kings expanded and refined the stupa, transforming it into the enormous stone monument that stands today. The history of Sanchi is woven with legend. It was said to be the home of Devi, the wife of Emperor Ashoka. It was here, according to tradition, that their union was forged. Since the 3rd century BC, Sanchi has served as a sacred hub for Buddhist worship. Over time, hundreds of stupas, statues, and religious structures have been erected in and around the city. Even now, archaeologists continue to uncover buried secrets beneath the soil of this ancient spiritual haven. East of Sicily lies the modest village of Muscali, nestled in the shadow of Mount Etna. It is one of the most perilous places humans have ever dared to live, enduring disasters for centuries, from earthquakes to blazing lava flows. Yet strangely, people always returned, rebuilding on the very same ground despite every warning. Between the years 1284 and 1285, lava engulfed the entire town, destroying everything in its path. They came back, rebuilt the village. Then, Mount Etna erupted again, and they rebuilt once more. The most recent catastrophe occurred in November of the year 1928, when the historic center was utterly devastated. Rather than abandon their home, the people of Sicily merely moved a few steps downstream and resurrected their community. Perhaps it is only a matter of time before Etna awakens again and erases Muscali as it once did. Marae Taputapuatea. Marae Taputapuatea was once the spiritual hub for all of Polynesia. Nestled on the southeastern edge of the island of Raiatea, its ruins lie hidden between mist-shrouded mountains and dense jungle remnants of a vanished civilization. This ceremonial center was at the heart of the Polynesian Triangle from Hawaii to New Zealand and Easter Island. Centuries ago, people from across the Pacific would voyage here. Priests, chiefs, and warriors gathered to perform sacred rituals in honor of the war god Oro. It is thought that both animal and human sacrifices were made here to appease divine spirits. Raiatea remains revered as the ancestral homeland of Polynesians. Today, only stone foundations, crumbling walls, and weathered statues remain, but the sacred significance endures. Marae Taputapuatea is believed to have been founded around the year 1000, not only as a sacrifice site, but also as a gathering place for navigators and a training center for priests across the Pacific. In the year 1763, following a conflict among priestly factions, warriors from Bora Bora attacked and destroyed the temple, bringing an end to its glory. 3 ancient Roman garrisons have been discovered in the Jordanian desert, evidence of a secret military campaign from the 2nd century. Though no structures remain, archaeologists detected their layout via satellite imaging and faint outlines etched into the landscape. These camps now exist only as rectangular ground patterns. No walls, no roofs, not a single brick remains. Yet their arrangement reveals they once followed standard Roman defensive design, situated about 23 to 27 miles apart within a day's rounded march. Michael Fradley of Oxford University identified all 3 camps within 24 hours using Google Earth. In the 2nd century, these lands were not yet formally under Roman control. They belonged to the Nabateans, Roman allies famed for Petra and their dominance of ancient spice routes. This discovery suggests Rome launched a covert campaign to infiltrate and strike at Nabatean power before fully annexing their territory. No Roman records mention this operation. Perhaps it was deliberately concealed. The 15-year construction of Rotterdam's north-south metro line revealed a monumental archaeological treasure. As engineers dug beneath layers of European history, archaeologists meticulously sifted through centuries of mud and debris. Nearly 2 decades later, thousands of artifacts had been recovered, almost 10,000 individual items now displayed at Roken Station, which doubles as an underground archaeological museum. Most pieces were found near the Amstel River in central Amsterdam, dating to the 13th century. The river had functioned as the city's dumping ground for hundreds of years, preserving countless relics of medieval life. Finds include shell, remains older than 115,000 years, medieval coins, fabric fragments, toys, and even pieces of armor. Archaeologist Peter Cranendonk described this trove as truly extraordinary. And working that of lot of life, the site along the Amia River is a marvel. No known fortress of its kind existed in the world at that time. While older monuments survive elsewhere, none match Amia in defensive design. This discovery challenges conventional views of hunter-gatherer societies. If a fortress stood here, similar constructions could have existed elsewhere. Perhaps ancient humans were not as nomadic as anthropologists once believed. Today, the fortress is nearly destroyed. Only the ancient wooden palisade remains and depressions where dwellings once stood. Archaeologists have reconstructed its original layout, revealing a stark truth about early social organization. The site is divided into 2 zones. Amia 1, the fortress core, enclosed a residential compound surrounded by massive sharpened wooden stakes driven into the earth. Outside this palisade lay Amia 2, where simple huts once stood. Colin Greer of the University of Washington argues this is clear evidence of social stratification from 8,000 years ago. Inside, the fortress lived elites. Outside, tenant farmers lived in makeshift shelters. This structure affirms that inequality and concepts of property existed from humanity's earliest societal organization. As Colin put it, this has been part of us since we first became human. Despite its bleak social implications, the fortress stands as an architectural wonder. It predates any similar enclosure in Europe by centuries. Something happened in Siberia that propelled human ingenuity. This fortress has been compared to Göbekli Tepe in Turkey. Were the 2 related? Could both be remnants of a civilization that existed before the flood? In the year 2017, a squad of soldiers in Iraq uncovered a remarkable treasure of the ancient Assyrians. The artifacts were found deep within an underground tunnel system beneath Mosul, a city scarred by war. These tunnels were carved beneath an artificial mound created in 2014 after ISIS had detonated a 12th century Islamic shrine, Nabi Yunus, believed to house the tomb of the prophet Jonah. The militants continued tunnel excavation as part of their Mosul defense network. Ironically, their destruction led to a stunning discovery. They dug so deeply that they pierced through centuries-old mud brick ruins and uncovered an ancient temple carved directly into the bedrock, more than 2,000 years old. Upon discovery, Soldiers summoned archaeologists to preserve the find. They discovered stone reliefs depicting strange creatures and mysterious rituals, plus a doorway leading into the ancient Assyrian temple. Sebastian Ray of the Iraq Emergency Heritage Management Program at the British Museum described the reliefs as extraordinarily unique, unlike any previously known Assyrian artwork. It raised speculation that the temple may have belonged to an unknown king. Sadly, since the seismic discovery of 2017, no additional information has been made public. Political instability in Iraq appears to have halted all further archaeological work indefinitely. Few are aware that between the forepaws of Egypt's Great Sphinx lies a massive stone slab known as a stele, like an ancient announcement board. Kings often erected stelae after major events like battles, engraving accounts to live on through history. The stele between the Sphinx's paws is called the Dream Stele. Its upper section portrays Pharaoh Thutmose IV, who ruled between the years 1401 and 1391 BCE, offering tribute to the Sphinx as though it were a deity. What makes it priceless is the text beneath. It recounts how Thutmose slept in the shadow of the Sphinx after a hunting expedition. In his dream, the god Harmakhis appeared and promised him kingship if he cleared the sand that buried the Sphinx. The end of the inscription is lost, leaving the story incomplete. Yet the Dream Stele implies that before Thutmose became pharaoh, the Great Sphinx lay buried in desert sands. Photos taken in 1928 show that into the 20th century, the Sphinx still lay partially buried. If the story is accurate, then only 1,000 years after its erection, the monument had been forgotten and swallowed by the desert. Many experts speculate that the Sphinx may be much older than conventional archaeology asserts. It may have existed long before the pyramids, buried for millennia before the pharaohs rediscovered it. Tiahuanaco, also known as Tiwanaku, remains one of the most enigmatic ancient cities in the Americas. Located in present-day Bolivia, near Lake Titicaca, it was the cultural capital of a powerful pre-Inca civilization. Tiahuanaco flourished for centuries before collapsing abruptly around the year 1000 CE. Its surviving ruins display breathtaking architectural sophistication, massive stones weighing hundreds of tons, fitted with near-perfect precision. Among them is the iconic Gateway of the Sun, a monumental monolith carved with mysterious solar symbols. No one knows exactly how these stones were quarried or moved without wheels or metal tools. Their staggering precision has led some unconventional theorists to suggest extraterrestrial assistance. Yet mainstream archaeology credits the ingenuity, manpower, and advanced engineering of ancient humans. Even stranger, no written language has been discovered. Information about the Tiahuanaco people remains frustratingly scant. It's likely the city was a major ceremonial center for a culture that once spread across the southern Andes, before collapsing for reasons still unknown. If you enjoyed these mysterious stories, share your thoughts below, and don't forget to subscribe so you won't miss our next explorations. See you in the next video.